As of now, the damage to agriculture is estimated at $110 million. That's according to the LSU Ag Center.
With corn harvest underway and soybean harvest quickly approaching, both crops are suffering from the downpour of nearly 20 inches of rain. TWILA's Karl Wiggers shows us the devastation farmers are seeing in their fields.
In West Baton Rouge Parish, the Scheck brothers are busy harvesting the last 175 acres of their corn crop. After receiving 16 inches of rain on his farm, Donald Scheck is finding a disappointing sight in his fields.
This is ugly looking here now.
Here we get a look at the damage Scheck could have been facing after a tropical storm bringing both wind and rain.
Yeah, this is something we're lucky it didn't happen widespread. See the whole field like that would be ugly, but we're really lucky. It's just these small areas that happened in.
This corn that was blown over was not the only damage Scheck found. Here is what that sprouting looks like on corn that was not blown to the ground. Not every plant is showing this damage, however, which helps Scheck to remain optimistic.
It could be a lot worse. We didn't have the wind with all this rain. If we would have had strong wind, we'd been a lot worse mess. But lucky it was just the rain. We got some sprouting. We had some damage. You know, whether it's 15% damage or not, something I figure somewhere in that area. I mean, we can live with that.
The good news for Scheck is that this combine is in the field. A few miles down the road, soybean farmers are not as fortunate. The only way to get through these soybeans are wearing knee-high boots.
That's all underwater. Yeah, it was probably chest deep a couple days ago. This is 7 days since the rain. You almost forget that it gets this bad at times.
Clayton Hurdle farms around 1,000 acres of soybeans in Iberville Parish. Like Scheck corn, Hurdle has beans that are ready for harvest. However, like many farmers across the South, Hurdle is just looking for dry ground following this historic rainfall.
Yeah, it's widespread throughout South Louisiana. I know over in the Lafayette area, I talked to a friend of mine this morning over there, and they've got hit really hard, 25 to 30 inches of rain in a 48-hour period. That's a lot of rain.
Just like the corn up the road, Hurdle is also seeing his beans begin to sprout from inside their pods, ruining that bean.
You don't bring that to the elevator. What happened here is the seed got moisture in it, and now it wants to germinate like you would if you planted it in the ground. It takes its time to sprout and start growing another plant because it's been so wet.
A painful reality for Hurdle is the money that has gone into producing these soybeans, which he considered to be a bumper crop.
Every expense, every fungicide application, every insecticide, everything's there. Everything but the actual harvester going through the machine.
Hurdle also has younger soybeans that he hopes will make up for the significant losses he expects to see in these fields. To keep that hope alive, he's pumping water around the clock off of these fields here. With these sprouting soybeans losing value daily, Hurdle is now simply hoping to survive this bean harvest and move on to sugarcane.
If we can get out of here with a 50% loss and recoup our expenses and start over next year, that's about a best case scenario right now.
The challenge now for Hurdle and many other farmers with soybeans and sugarcane is getting the beans out of the way in time to plant their cane. Unfortunately for these farmers, the rain in the forecast up to now hasn't offered much promise as to when they can expect to move forward in these flooded fields. In Avery, Chris and I covered the flooding in North Louisiana earlier this year, and the biggest difference between this flood and the flood back in the spring is the fact that in the spring they had time to recover. They had time to replant. They just don't have that option here when they're in the middle of harvest in some of these fields.
Yeah, this is probably the worst possible time for a flood on a farm. You mentioned about the difference. Last time your father's field flooded up there in Franklin Parish. What did you see different going out this time, going into the fields? And did you have trouble getting around?
I didn't have trouble getting around, honestly, because the farmers weren't even at the farms for the first few days following the flood. They were out parishes away from their own farms helping others, and that was a really cool thing. And Kristen, you're going to show some of that later in the show. As far as differences in the spring and now to see on the farm, it's really hard to tell because when you went out on the farm in March, the corn was this tall. Now it's ready to harvest, so it's really hard to compare for that in that way.
Well, Karl Wiggers, excellent story. Thank you for your coverage.